All right, let's get right into it. We're about to pull back the curtain on a huge medical mystery, something that actually connects many of the biggest health problems we face today. Think of it like a hidden thread, weaving its way through a whole bunch of conditions you'd never think were related. So let's start right there with a question. What on earth could link the aching joints of arthritis, the damage to our arteries and heart disease, and the devastating cognitive decline of dementia? I mean, they seem totally separate, right? Affecting completely different systems in the body. Well, it turns out the science is pointing to one single shared culprit. And that's it. That's the word: inflammation. Now, I'm not talking about the obvious kind, when you get a cut and it gets red and puffy. This is something much sneakier, a process happening quietly, deep inside our bodies, often for years on end. And that's the key distinction here. We're talking about chronic inflammation. You can think of it like a fire alarm in your body that's just stuck on. Instead of a quick, helpful burst of activity to heal an injury, it's this low-level, rumbling state of alert that never shuts off. And over time, that constant on switch can actually start to cause collateral damage to perfectly healthy tissues. And this is where you start to see just how massive this story is. I mean, look at this list. Chronic inflammation is being investigated as a key player in everything from autoimmune diseases like rheumatoid arthritis and IBD to huge metabolic problems like type 2 diabetes and even neurodegenerative diseases and chronic kidney failure. It's a huge connecting thread.
Okay, so this whole thing is a silent process. How in the world do we even know it's happening? Well, this is where it gets really cool. We basically have to become medical detectives, looking for forensic clues left at the scene.
And that's the multi-million-dollar question for doctors and scientists, isn't it? Before you can treat something, you have to be able to find it and measure it. So how do you track the fingerprints of a culprit that's designed to be invisible? Well, the answer, believe it or not, is already flowing through our veins. The clues have been there all along, hiding in plain sight, inside the data from a completely standard, everyday blood test. You see, researchers have figured out brand new ways to look at that old data. One of the most powerful is something called the Systemic Immune Inflammation Index, or SII for short. Now, this isn't a fancy new test. It's just a really smart calculation that uses numbers you already have from a blood count to create one powerful score, kind of a snapshot of your body's overall inflammatory state. And what I love about this is how it breaks it all down. These scary-sounding indexes, SIE, SIRI, PIV, they look complicated, but they're not. They're all just clever formulas based on the counts of your neutrophils, lymphocytes, platelets, the exact same cells that are measured in practically every routine blood test you've ever had. It's about finding new patterns in old data. All right, so we found a way to track the culprit, but what can we actually do about it? This is where the story pivots, because the research is now exploring a potential solution that is, well, surprisingly ancient. And this really says it all. Scientists are now taking a very serious look at fasting, not just as a way to lose weight, but for its potential to get in there and directly influence our immune system to actually help dial down that chronic inflammation we've been talking about. Now, we need to be really clear here. We're talking specifically about intermittent fasting, or IF. This is all about when you eat, not necessarily how much you eat. It's totally different from an old-school diet, just cutting your calories every single day. The idea here is that the timing of the fast itself might be what's flipping these unique biological switches. So how could this possibly work? Well, the research is pointing to a few main ideas. First, it seems to lower something called oxidative stress, which basically means it gives your cells a much-needed break to do some house cleaning and repair work. Second, it looks like it might directly change the behavior of our immune cells. And third, it can change the whole environment in our gut, which we now know is like a massive command center for our immune system. And the most incredible part of all this is just how wide a net this research is casting. We are not just talking about one or two diseases. The potential applications stretch from our joints all the way to our brains. Take rheumatoid arthritis, for example. Studies are diving deep, asking if intermittent fasting can actually calm down the inflammatory markers that drive the disease and ease people's symptoms. Then you have the gut. This is a huge area of focus, with researchers exploring whether fasting can help manage the out-of-control intestinal inflammation that's at the very core of conditions like IBD. And it doesn't stop there. This research is even being applied to chronic kidney disease, trying to see if these fasting protocols could help protect one of our most vital organs from inflammatory damage.
Now, this is really exciting. There's a ton of work looking into whether fasting could open up new doors for treating diseases like Alzheimer's and Parkinson's, possibly by tapping into that powerful connection between our gut and our brain.
And of course, it all comes back to heart health, one of the biggest health challenges on the planet. The big question is, could managing inflammation this way be a powerful tool for protecting our hearts and blood vessels for the long haul? So, when you put all these pieces together, what have we got? We've unmasked a hidden culprit, and we're now testing a powerful, if ancient, strategy against it. This truly feels like we're standing on the edge of a new frontier in how we understand health. Okay, let's boil this all down to the essentials. What do you need to remember? 1. Chronic inflammation is a major suspect lurking behind a ton of diseases. 2. We now have these clever new tools like the SII to track it using simple blood tests. And 3. Intermittent fasting is being seriously studied as a potential way to fight back. And the main thing is, this field is moving fast. And that really leaves us with this one massive question to think about. As we learn more and more about this hidden process, are we on the cusp of a total revolution in medicine? Could learning to control inflammation be the key to a healthier, longer life in the 21st century? That's a question science is racing to answer right now.